Good afternoon, construction world. Welcome back, Christopher and Lindsay, for another Oryx Talks.
Have you ever felt?
Are you listening? Damn. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Welcome back, construction world. This week I've got something a little bit special for us. Lindsay does not know what we're going to talk about today, and I've done this for a particular reason. The reason being is that it's so important for you guys out there to understand how competent and how good Lindsay is at her job. And one of the ways that I can show this, and one of the ways that I can show you why I've got so much respect for Lindsay and what she does and her knowledge, one of those reasons, one of those ways that I can show you is to do exactly this, is to bring up a topic and then start discussing it. So Lindsay's wealth of knowledge in such a broad context is really, really important. And I really like getting Lindsay's insights into it, because as you've probably learnt from a lot of our Oryx discussions and Oryx talks, is that over time you develop and you learn a whole heap of skills, and as you develop in your career and in life in general, family life and all those kinds of things. So I want to bounce a couple of things off you that I've learned and know, is that right? Is that wrong? Was I on the right track? Am I on the right track still? And all those kinds of things. So one of the things that's making headlines right now, it's everywhere, is everything to do with all of these, particular medical mandates and all these kinds of things. Now, it's impacting people in a real way, okay? It really is. It's impacting people. I spoke to some friends in Australia today, and, in T-minus 6 days and counting, they won't be in a job anymore or anything like that. What it did, it reminded me of something that I did when I was working as a consultant equipment manager for a pipeline company back in Australia. And it kind of gets, this is the topic of the story without drawing on long wind at the start. Values and principles, okay? Values and principles is what we strive for, or what we used to strive for to live with in our lives, okay? But we seem to have lost our way a little bit in societies in general. I wanted to touch base on this, Lou, and I wanted to get your take on a couple of things and how best people who are dealing with this, this struggle, this fight with themselves right now, because they know what's right. The people that I discussed today in Australia, they know what the right thing to do is, but they also know that it weighs heavily on their mind. The decision that the decision that they're making right now is going to affect their family. It's going to affect their ability to put food on the table and all those kinds of things. Now, some of them are in some better positions than other people. Obviously, they've got some money stashed away and all those kinds of things. Everyone is in a different position. It's people that are, well ahead in their careers, or obviously, let's hope they're in a better position than the young fellas who are starting out, but maybe they've just bought a new home or whatever the case may be. So I'll probably, what do you reckon? I'll just start with my story first, Lou, and tell you about how I first came across, well, not first came across, but how it came up in a cold, hard decision that I had to make working for a company, and the decision that I made and what was the fallout from that. And then we can sort of segue from there, if you like. So let me back up in the time machine here. I went to work as a contract equipment manager 2008 for a particular company, an Australian company. And I've spoken about this prior on other talks that we've done, other Oryx talks. This particular company wanted to build our MO when we started. The project manager, the construction manager, and myself got an MO that they wanted to build an old-fashioned gun pipeline crew. We were the three guys to put this amazing crew together, okay? This was 2008. We did that. We had all kinds of different troubles, as we've spoken before, on that particular job. But because we had such a good crew of people together that worked as a team, we got through every obstacle, made the company a shitload of money, right? Absolute truckload of money on that job. There was no pipeline project in Australia that didn't make job for years and years and years, unless they went to court and took clients to court. So this was like we made money. We made serious money for the client, for our company that we were contracted to. Fast forward after that to the next job. Okay, now one of the things when we built this gun crew up, we said to the bosses that, you know, if we build this up, you've got to look after them. You have to look after your crews. They're not going to hang around and want to stay with you and be this, you know, royal family crew if you don't look after the people. They're just not. It's not what happens. Yeah, of course. You got to support the people. Yeah, of course, definitely we'll do that. The second that they made such a good profit, that was it. All bets were off. They didn't care after that. They thought they had this wonderful, great, you know, reputation now all of a sudden after one successful project. So we went to a job in Victoria. We got down there. The law had changed with the transport. So heavy transport in Australia, not in pipeline projects, but heavy transport in Australia. To compress a very complicated story, it turned into that truck drivers could no longer drive a heavy vehicle 7 days a week. They had to have the seventh day away from the wheel. No maintenance on the truck. They couldn't wash the truck. They couldn't even kick a tire on a truck. They had to have the seventh day away. So we brought this up with the company, you know, at the site level, and they said, shit, what do we do? And so we started putting some plans into place on what we could do. How can we get around it? Then we tried to involve the company lawyers. The company lawyers got involved, and, you know, it went on and on and on. The company lawyers said, yes, you must do what basically we brought to the attention. Well, the company then said, well, we can't do that because we haven't priced that. Okay, well, you're going to have to go back to your client because these are new regulations that have come in. It's out of our control. The pipeline industry of Australia has been asleep at the wheel, as they always are, and did nothing about it while it was in the, you know, discussion stage before it became legislation. So I was stuck in a very, very, very hard place. We built this absolutely fantastic crew, and as if you're anyone that builds crews, that's the one thing that you love doing. Like, once you've built a fantastic crew, you just want to keep them together and go from job to job and, you know, kick goals and make money. Well, I had to make a decision whether I stayed there with the potential that if any one of the drivers had an accident, now that could be someone hitting them, whatever the case may be. You never know with any of those kinds of things. So I had to make that cold, hard decision. Do I put myself out of work and become the black sheep of the pipeline industry in Australia because of the principles that I have, that this is the law, that if something does go right, if something does go wrong, first of all, are the company going to support me and back me up? Well, they wouldn't put anything in writing, only verbal, we'll look after you, Chris. Well, anyone that's done anything with contracts knows that that's just bullshit. That just doesn't fly. So I tell you what, I had sleepless nights. I felt sick. I felt like I was letting my crew down. I felt like I was letting my boys down and everything like that. I didn't want them. I wanted them to do what was right for them. But I also know that their situation was always going to be different to my situation. You know, you can't put everyone in the same boat all at once. So I made a decision. I said, if you can't put it in writing that you fully support me, and particularly as I was a contractor, you know, like, I tell you what, those big companies would throw a contractor under the bus as soon as that bus is coming. They're never going to support you, never. So I made that decision, and I decided that I was going to do what's right because it's the law. It wasn't myself who wrote the law. It wasn't, you know, it wasn't my friends that wrote it. There was particular ways that you could potentially get around it, but there was nothing tried and tested. There was no liaising between the heavy vehicle bodies and the Pipeline Industry Association, the construction industry as a whole, nothing, zero. So you were literally flying blind. And if an accident happened and someone, you know, God forbid, got killed, there's the law, and that's
Yeah.
the rule of the law, so you must follow it.
Yeah.
So I decided that I would, I'd hang up the boots and I would call it a day with that company. The ramifications and the fallout from that was unbelievable. Like from a personal level, to where I went home with my partner at the time, and you know, all kinds of different names that I was being called because the particular amount of money that she was used to getting at the time wasn't coming in. Like it was just terrible. It was a really bad situation. Then everyone in the pipeline industry, all, you know, they all say that there's no blacklist or anything like that. I can guarantee you there's a blacklist. I guarantee you there's a blacklist. Didn't matter what I did. No one wanted to talk. No, there was no jobs. Okay, no problem. That's fine. So I went over to Western Australia, went onto the, I still had my business, of course, but I went to Western Australia, and, you know, the rest is history, as they say. But I had a phone call from my old boss because I spoke to him. He was the equipment manager for another company in Australia. And I spoke to him about it. And of course, there was never any, oh, here's some good advice for you, Chris, or this is what you can do. None of that. Absolutely none of that. Because at the end of the day, he's just an old farmer, that guy. He had no idea. It was just, that's how those old boys were. Fast forward past that, I haven't worked for 6 months in the industry. I was still getting by with what I was doing, no troubles at all. But I get a phone call from my old boss, who's had a major truck accident on his job, and he hasn't been doing anything that was meant to be done by the law. And he was shitting bricks, asking for my advice. What should I do? Do I report it? What happens now? Do they come and take me away? Do they lock me up? Like, he was shitting bricks. So I gave him the same advice that he gave me. Nothing. At the end of the day, you've put yourself in that position because you've chose money over values. You've chose money and your security and safety over the values of your people, your family as well. You know, at the end of the day, if anything like that, you know, lucky for him, it was never investigated. It didn't go further because it was still early in the career and all those kinds of things. But I want to ask you, what do people do when they get to those kinds of situations where there's a decision to be made? You know what the right decision is, but you also know that there's going to be big ramifications if you do it. And I'm talking about doing the right thing here, you know, like not a decision for something illegal or illegal activity or anything like that. Like making a decision that is, you know, there's a right path to go, and then there's a, well, I'll just turn a blind eye to it and hope it all turns out good. But more so that battle that you have between, you know, in your mind, that anxiety, that, you know, how do you cope with that? What do you do with that?
Yeah. So it's interesting. Like, you always answer your own questions in your stories, but, because everybody's situation is different. From a moral standpoint, like, personally, I'll do a lot of things on principle. But I'm also in a situation where I can do that. I don't have kids. I don't have people counting on me to, you know, to put food on my table. I really only have to look out for myself. So I can do that, but other people can't. And I understand that. So what I suggest in that situation is just to weigh your options. If you have, you know, if you have kids at home and a wife at home that's counting on your job, obviously the situation is going to be a lot different than the situation you were in. You owned a business that you could keep making money. You could sell things off. You could live for a long time. By making that decision, where not everybody's in that position. They're 100% reliant on that job. So yeah, it's tricky, but you want to sit down, you want to weigh out your options. You want to find a support system to bounce stuff off of, maybe reach out to a professional, really making the best decision for yourself, and taking all the external things out of it. But yeah, at the end of the day, I think as a person, you're going to be able to live with yourself a lot better if you if you follow your instinct and you do what you feel is right. That's personally, that's what I think. But I do I also understand that there's different things that you have to consider in as well. And I always try to meet people where they're at. I don't, I would never push like, oh no, don't do that. You know, like I always try to meet people where they're at and take into consideration their situation. I know doing things off principle is a lot harder for some people than others. So I'm definitely a firm believer, though, if you do things for the right reason, it works out. It tends to work out.
Yeah, it does. It doesn't mean that you don't go through some pain.
It's going to be hard and all that stuff. And of course, that's going to cause some anxiety and all those things. But if you have ways to manage that anxiety and maybe the depression or whatever that comes along with it, I think you'll get through the other side of it. But you have to consistently work at it too. You have to go into it with a plan. You know, when this gets hard, how am I going to deal with this? How am I just not going to go into this hole and go into this depression and give up altogether? You want to be prepared for that. And that's what I would say to a person who came to me in that situation. You know, how are you going to feel 2 years down the road?
Yep.
As a person by making this decision for the wrong reason. And then, okay, so how are you going to deal with that? Let's come up with some coping skills here. Maybe you can go to work somewhere else for a little while, take a little less money, whatever, you know, you just problem solve from there. But yeah, everybody's situation is different. So if somebody came to me with that dilemma, I just try to meet them where they're at and go from there and problem solve. And
right.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, you have to be able to look at yourself in the mirror too.
100%. See, for me, making the decision to leave, that was easy.
Yeah.
Was it right or was it wrong? That's the law.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm not going to break the law for you. That was an easy decision. Yeah. The hard decision that kept playing on my mind, even the home life, and I know this is probably a little bit hard, but like for me, the home life only came into the equation a little bit for myself and my own personal thing. But it was the team. I felt like, shit, these guys are going to be leaderless now. You know, it's going to lead to some more problems and all these kinds of things. That, to me, that was the big letdown for me. That was the stabbing in the heart, so to speak, was like, damn, sorry, guys.
Yeah.
I can't, like, I'd love for all of you guys to make a stand with me, but I accept that you can't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Struggle for me was letting people down.
It's really figuring out what's best for you. And by doing what's best for you, it does have a ripple effect on the people you care about. And it's really on everybody else to do what's right for them. You can't make decisions for everybody and save everybody.
Absolutely.
So yeah, you kind of got to let that stuff go. Unfortunately, sometimes, even when you see people doing the wrong things, I know it feels like we're in uncharted territory now with everything going on. But we're all faced with moral dilemmas every day. What's right, what's not right. You know, that's just part of life and being a grown up. But I think it's just making a decision that's best for you, that's best for your family, especially, you know, it's different when people have young kids at home and things like that. Like those sort of situations add a whole different, like I know the decisions I make are for a lot different reasons than, like, you know, my best friend who has 3 little kids at home counting on her.
Yeah.
You know, it's different, and I get that, but yeah, it's making the decision that you feel is best for you and being okay then with what follows, and wrapping your head around the fact that it's probably going to be hard for a while. You're going to have some anxiety, but all that's normal. There's no reason to panic over that, as long as you have a plan to cope with it and it doesn't get to a point. Everybody wants to talk about, oh my gosh, you know, suicide rates are high. The suicide rates have gone through the roof, especially in the construction industry, but nobody wants to talk about why. They just want to do these fancy campaigns about suicide prevention and all that stuff, which is hashtag this, which is fine, great, whatever. But the whole thing with suicide prevention is staying ahead of problems, and nobody seems interested in doing that.
Lou,
so
you just said it. Suicide prevention.
Yeah.
That's the
But
whole
nobody
point.
wants to talk about how you actually do it. So from a personal level, it's okay, I'm making this decision. It's going to be really hard for a while. I'm going to have to change my lifestyle a little bit. And there's going to be all these pressures and this and that. So how am I going to cope on the days that it's hard? So do I pick up the phone and call a friend, you know, who I can talk, somebody I can trust? Do I seek mental health services? It's really for you to kind of figure that out, but knowing that there's people out there that can help you do that. There's options out there to get help that is affordable, might not even cost you anything. You know, it's people get in these ruts where they're like, there's no help, I'm on my own, I have to do all these things by myself. So you're gonna have to be willing to get the help get help.
Let's break that down a little bit on the coping mechanisms, okay, or putting that list together. Is it as simple as just putting a list of pros and cons and all of that together? Again,
it can be.
For me, it wasn't a decision at all, because I don't know. I seem to be able to think about things and go, okay, well, if I stay here and I break the law and something goes wrong, I'll be in jail.
Yeah. You're a very logical thinker. You know what I mean? You're really good at taking emotion out of everything. You like, it's all facts and logic and all that, which is great. In a perfect world, everybody can do that on command, be able to do that. But people tend to make decisions from an emotive place, it's emotion driven. Yeah. And so it's which is hard. Our emotions add obstacles to things. Sometimes they're good. Emotions are good, and it's good to feel things, and it's life. But it's hard when you feel like the world is crashing in on you to not feel emotional about that and to not feel overwhelmed. So you're really good at, you see things very black and white. This is wrong, I'm not doing it. Not everybody can do that. Like for me personally, I see 85 sides to everything when I'm in a situation. I gotta look at every angle of it, what could happen, what couldn't happen. And I try to be a more black and white thinker, but I see everything as a gray area. And I think a lot of people are going to be feeling very overwhelmed by the weight of these decisions. And it's going to be hard to see. They're going to see it as, well, I'll just do this to keep my job because I feel so overwhelmed. So it can be as simple as starting out to sit down and write the pros and the cons of each. Okay. But I think it needs to go even further than that, because once you actually make the decision one way or the other, it's going to come with you're going to be feeling some sort of way after you make the decision.
See, that's actually a good point. When I'd made my decision and I jumped into one of my trucks and I headed back to Queensland from Victoria, it was a 2-day run back up there. I had this weight lifted off me because I knew that I wasn't being put into a position.
That's how you know you made the right decision too.
So those decisions that people make in the moment because, I've just got to put food on the table. They're making decisions in a split second just to look for now. Yeah. And not like you say.
Survival mode. Yes. You know what I mean? Yeah. People react differently when their back's against the wall. So you have to take that into consideration too. That doesn't make those people bad. It just they're in survival mode, and they feel like they're backed into a corner. So they're just, again, doing what they feel is right for them. Whether however we feel about it is irrelevant. I obviously wish things were going differently than they are, but they're not. All I can do is what I feel is right for me. Yeah. Yeah. And it's really what it comes down to for everybody in this situation. If you don't feel comfortable with getting a vaccine you don't want, don't do it. Yeah. And you deal with the ramifications afterwards. Yeah. But you have to have a plan with how you're going to deal with that, how you're going to cope with that. So sit down and write a list of, the pros and cons of each one.
Yeah.
And then if you go down the road where you're gonna lose your job, okay, let's plan. How am I gonna deal with all this?
Yeah.
What am I gonna do? What are the other options? Where can I go work? For the time
See, a
being
lot of
until
these
this all
things
shakes
too.
out.
This is my experience though. What I found, because this wasn't just one decision like that I've ever been faced with in my life, as you know. Every time I've made that decision for the good and what is right, what is clearly right and what is clearly wrong, when I've always chosen what's right, it's always led to a better place.
Yeah.
It may have been a rough road to get there. It may have been some, a fair bit of pain along the way, but it's always led to something better. It's always led to something greater. It's always led to another rung up on the ladder, not down on the ladder, And that's one thing that I've, that I have learned in my time, that it always works out better if you do the right thing,
I agree. I agree on a personal level. I couldn't agree more. And I try to, I don't always get it right, but I try to think, for me, and to each their own. I know not everybody is a religious person, but I always think, okay, in this situation, I bring God into it. What would be that, like, what would make me feel like a moral person after I do this? And that's because I was brought up going to church and all those things. So I make decisions based on morals a lot. Not everybody does that. And I respect that. Not everybody has that higher power, so to say.
Yeah, that was something that I kind of struggle with, because you saw a lot of America is extremely religious, grew up.
And I'm not extremely religious by any means, but I grew up going to church and God being part of my life. But
I say compared to Australia, I mean, we grew up, mum believed in God and things like that, but I was always, you said it before, I've got to know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I'm scientific. I got to know why, how, and all of that. But that aside, I never really understood it. And, I always played it off as like, whoa, this crazy Bible thumpers.
Oh, I know.
But what I've understood and what I've respected as I learn more and more and more is that, and this is something that you've taught me, people aren't all the same. Hence why that the religious side is really important, to get those morals and that moral compass aligned with people that can be swayed easily and all of that. So I get that now. Like, that was something that I never understood, young. I was, well, that's right and that's wrong. Surely you got brought up, but other people, now I understand why. Now I understand that,
people will do a lot of crazy things to protect their families. I know what I would do to protect my family. So that plays a part in these decisions and the things people are doing, whether we agree with them or not. So the world, unfortunately, is putting us in a lot of shitty positions right now. Everybody, old and young, is being put in really bad situations right now. But so you got to respect where people are coming from a little bit. Yes. And that's kind of where I come from, is meeting people where they're at. If you want to go do those things and jump through all these hoops and whatever, that's fine. You do what you feel is best for me. I'll do what I feel is best for me, for myself. So I'm sorry, you do what's best for you and I'll do what's best for me. Yeah.
What's yours is mine and what's mine is mine.
I got ahead of myself. But yeah, I think I feel like the world has gotten pretty evil and people don't want to see other sides. They just want to see how they feel. And they want everybody to feel and think and act the way they act. But that's not how I do things at all. So I'll always meet people where they're at. I'll always take their situation. And as long as they're being respectful to me, I'll always be respectful to them, whether I agree with them or not. And we just work through it.
Yeah. So, okay, they've put their list together. They're working through their list and that. What about communication and that? Obviously, communication plays a huge role in those kinds of decisions. Yeah.
Communication is key. Now, you might have your mind made up already what you're going to do, and you don't go and consult. I think everybody should go and consult. If they are sharing their life with someone, they should consult with them first if it's going to affect their life. I think that's really important. but I also know everybody's relationships are different. So, you know, do what you feel best suits that. But you have to communicate with them. Okay, I'm doing this, but I want you to know if I do this, this is what's going to happen. And this is what you need to be prepared for. And I think people underestimate what just the allowing people to be aware of what is going to happen. What is going to happen makes it easier to deal with. Blindsiding people is never the answer. I hate being blindsided. I hate when somebody just throws something at me and something they've known about for a while and they didn't tell me, and now it's affecting my life. I'm angry. And I think that's a natural reaction. And then people's tendencies be, I don't know why you're so mad, you know, and then they don't understand. And then there's this barrier, because then they're both just mad and they're shutting down. So you have to keep that open line. You may already know what you're doing, but you need to prepare them as well. Like, this is how it's going to affect our life, and take their feelings into consideration. I think you'll find that support's a lot easier to get if you take the other person's feelings into consideration.
That's a good point, actually, because through all of that, when any of these big decisions are made, it always comes back to family. Mm-hmm. That's your support network. You know what I mean? Like, when all the friends have gone and all the drinking buddies and all that kind of thing and all the hanger-oners and all of that are gone, it's your family that's left at the end of the day. So, you know, whether that's an extended family and all that, sure, you're going to have some robust friends there, you know, like I've got two buddies, you know, that we would drop and fly anywhere in the world to go and help each other, you know, like, but that support network is really, really, and that was something that I didn't understand at the time, you know, and that was, it was always difficult for me to separate that manager role and then coming home and playing happy family man at home kind of thing like that. That was always something that I struggled with. So for me, it was like, well, I've got to make this business decision, and this is for the business, and this is what I've got to do. Well, I should have actually involved that support network at home, because you're right. It was pretty like, well, what are you going to do now?
Abrupt. And then that would have made you angry, and it would just be this whole not good situation. But I think people in construction and pipeline and stuff, they always have, I won't call it wrong thinking, but the thinking that work is everything. Work is only one part of your life. So if you know, you have to take the other parts of your life into consideration. You know, like when I decided to start traveling with you a few years ago, I knew that it would worry my family. So I went and I talked to them first and told them, this is what I'm going to be doing. This is where I'm going to be at. And then when I left for the first time, there wasn't like a panic amongst everybody. Like, where is she going? What's she going to be doing? And it was pretty simple conversations. Like, I feel good about this. It feels right. I'm going to go do it. And just having them involved in that decision, it made my life easier too. Then I wasn't getting the irrational text messages or phone calls while I was gone about them being worried where I was at or what I was doing. So just involving, and you don't have to involve everybody. You just have to involve the people that it affects.
The right people.
Yeah. Because especially, I think men have a tendency of, say, especially if their wife doesn't work and they stay home with the kids or whatever the situation is, they have a tendency to make unilateral decisions that will have a big impact on her. So what that makes her feel like is she just feels so powerless and helpless that you just made a decision that's going to affect my kids' life without even consulting with me. So
that's a good point too, Lou, because what you can, if you turn that on its head, that, you know, I'll make the decision for the family, you know, which is an old,
it's very traditional and all that stuff, but it doesn't. But
you can turn that on your head and say, look, this is what I'm thinking of doing, and this is the right thing to do, you know, plead your case, so to speak. But then nut out those solutions together. I think that was, you know, something that I lacked doing, but looking back on it now, I'm sure it would have helped tremendously to nut out. And then you become you work towards something then, like, okay, yeah, all right, well, yeah, well, if you're going to come home and do that, why don't we grow some vegetables? All right, let's do that. Let's do, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
When something like that happens, you need to start looking at, okay, well, how am I going to feed the family? How am I going to do this? How am I going to do that?
Maybe the other person is going to go get a part-time job for a little while to help offset costs or whatever. You can start problem solving.
Yes.
From there.
And two brains are always better than one in that scenario. Mm-hmm. Always better than one. And I think that's what you're really good at doing, is finding a segue somewhere, because sometimes when you're so focused and so one-minded to one track, it's hard to see the forest for the trees sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
And that's where you're like, well, have you thought about this? Well, have you thought about trying to and I try and do it with people all the time. I try and say, okay, well, how I am in a disaster. When a disaster, I'm the guy that people come running to, and because I love it. I thrive off the more disastrous the situation is. That's what I love, and I just thrive in it. Because people
come to me too, and sometimes I'm like, why is everybody coming to me? I'm just kidding.
It's like the bomb technician. If you see me run, and try and keep up.
Yeah.
But I learnt this. I'm able to pull out of a big complex disaster that's just gone on. I'm able to focus immediately on the things that need to happen, and then put everything in place to go and do that. Like, I love that. I love that ability that, I've been given the ability to go and do that. But again, I know that other people can't do that. I know that, like that's.
I think some of it too, and I know people react to me in this way. It's you stay calm, and sometimes just having that calm. And I know that's why people come to me, because I'll calm. Even if I'm freaking out on the inside, I stay calm. And I think, that holds a lot of power, and that's something that people get from me when they do come to me. If they're feeling like they need help, it's always going to be like a calm, rational conversation, and I'm going to present you with all sorts of options and things to think about and all that. So I'm not here to solve your problems. I wish it were that easy. I wish I had somebody I could call. Well, I kind of do it to you, that I'd be like, hey, I have this problem. What should I do? But at the end of the day, even if you give me the answer, I have to go do it myself.
Yeah, of course.
There's a lot of conversations I have that I would much rather you just have for me, but I know that I have to have those conversations. So that's that's what you get from me. It's just like, it's a calm, just rational conversation. I'm going to present you with a lot of different things to think about, and it's really just bringing your mind back to a rational place. Yeah,
you're able to pull out the certain bits of information, like, if you're on a consulting session with someone, you're able to immediately get to the point where you can, okay, so what's important to you?
Yeah. And I think some people too, they're just hesitant because I don't think I always seem like somebody who's going to understand what they're going through, because I'm not a construction worker, or I haven't been there, or whatever. But that's actually an advantage.
Definitely.
Because I'm so neutral in the situation. I understand. I know enough. I mean, I've been around you for the last few years. I grew up with a dad who works in the industry. I have several friends. I know a lot about it. Anytime I'm with my dad, I'm constantly picking his brain, and always, I ask you about 1,000 questions a day. So I know enough about it, but I'm also, and like Vic, I always love hearing Vic's stories. I've learned a ton from him too. So I know enough about it, but I'm still displaced enough from it, enough where I can be neutral when you do come to me, and I can. Yeah, because your specialty is in helping people understand situations and to deal with it. That's your specialty. That's your gift. That's what you're brilliant at. You just happen to have a great grasp on the construction industry and the problems that are there and how to solve it. Yeah. Like real world solutions. You don't need... I just understand people. I understand people. I understand what makes people take. Some people make me scratch my head. But you and me both. It's hard to surprise me, honestly. Yeah. So I just understand people. I feel like I'm pretty good at meeting people where they're at. So I'm never going to push stuff on you that you think that makes you uncomfortable, or
No.
you know, that's just not my style.
But also too, the services like this, the consulting services that you offer, that's about fixing a problem that you're dealing with right here and right now, and giving the tools to work through that next time by yourself. It's not about, I want to see you every week and get online, and it's got nothing to do with that. Like, it is literally giving you the tools, passing on your knowledge, passing on all of the...
See, I'm comfortable with about 3, maybe 2, 3 sessions to start, you know, and you can do that every other week or once a month or whatever. I feel like that's a pretty good, the first one just gives me an idea of what's going on. The second one, we talk about what you can do. And then the third one, you come back and tell me how it's working. And then we decide, do you need more? And then after that, it could be once every 3 months, or not at all. I mean, it's really up to you.
Absolutely. I suppose too, just while you were talking, just saying that then, if you're a manager or a company owner, like, you're going to be making some unbelievably difficult decisions right now that you probably don't even realize it, or maybe you do, are going to affect your business years down the track with potential lawsuits and things like that, you know? So don't think, if you're watching this and you're a company owner, reach out. You know what I mean? Like, just having a level head, calm voice to help you work through your problems, you know, not to give you advice on, well, this is what I would do here. It's got nothing to do with that. It's literally to help you understand where you're at and how to best handle the situation to come out the other side a much better, much more prepared person.
Yeah. I have actually been I always try to mix up like the stuff I share with tips for people in management and stuff like that. And I think I don't think those people are really in a position where they get to consider themselves very often, and how their mental health is and all that stuff. And then how their mindset is affecting the people they're managing too, and the decisions they're making. And there's just so many different things to consider, even when it comes to safety. I think safety is such a big conversation, but nobody talks about how, well, not a lot of people talk about how mental health affects safety, and that starts at the top down. So there's a lot of things to think about and consider, and no matter what position you're in. I guess that's a long-winded way of saying what I would do in that situation, but how I would help.
Because it's just such an important part of history that we're in right now. You know, people are being asked to do things that they would never normally be asked to do, you know? So I think it's really important. I like to give some of my own personal experiences so people can understand that, you know, like, these were common decisions sometimes on projects, you know, like, we all make decisions from time to time that are a bit sketchy. If we get out on the other side, well, woohoo, that was pretty good, you know. I'm going to look at my mate Brownlow and I and some of those things that we did. But then there's the big decisions. Then there's the life-changing decisions, those forks in the road. And that's sort of where I'm at with this discussion. It's those big,
and we're all having them. You know, how many conversations
everyone
you and I had in the last year that was like, okay, well, if this happens, what do you want to do? I don't want to do this. So just so you're prepared, I won't do that. So you know, if I'm put in that position, you know what I'm going to do. I know what you're going to do. There's going to be no surprises. So, because it's just you and I doing this stuff. So
as a business owner, you have to make those decisions. You can't.
Well, and it's allowed me to it's really pushed me to get my own things going, and you know, and actually now your plans with the business stuff, I'm excited about it. It's giving me time to, so just having those conversations have helped a ton for my own. Because I'm kind of I like to have a general plan. I've gotten a lot better about now I don't really like plans that much. So, but now, like, you know, just because you kept that open dialogue with me, if this happens, this is what I'm going to do. It's actually not only allowed me to be okay with it, I'm actually excited about it. Excited.
And that's what I was getting at before. It opens up a world of opportunity when you make a decision. At the moment, and then that point in time, you think the world is ending. You know what I mean? And in a way, it is. You know, your old way of life is ending. The way that you've known, what you've been comfortable with, and all of that. You know, I remember when I first started business, and one of the books that I read, which was not so much a business book, was just about getting you mentally tough for what lays ahead. And it said every time that you make a decision, like starting a business, ask yourself how many other people have been in this position where you are right now. The second that I ask myself that, and I go, billions, hundreds of millions, I don't know how many people have started businesses. Like, you're not on your, you think you're alone. You honestly think you're alone. And again, that's what my friend in Australia was like. He thought that he was the only one who thought this way. He was like, I just feel flooded. I feel, and he said, just in a week, it just turned on its head. And I'm like, And even some of those people, some of those construction workers in Melbourne, they were interviewing them. I saw an interview today. One of these construction workers had his hand on his heart, and he was like, I feel so ashamed that I didn't support people last year, business owners, shop owners, hairdressers that were going through the pain, because it wasn't affecting me.
It didn't affect them. And
I feel ashamed. And that again goes back to what you're talking about. How are you going to feel in the future? You're the one that has to look in the mirror, you know.
And only you know that. Only you can decide that. So again, like I said earlier, we're all faced with moral dilemmas way more often than, I mean, I can't even count how many times I went back and forth with one situation in the last 3 months. Am I doing the right thing? Am I not doing the right thing? Should I stick it out? But I just kept going back to my gut feeling. This isn't right. I shouldn't be involved in it. And I just in the last week, I feel good about it. But once you make the decision and you tell yourself, a lot of it is just instinct. We all have instincts, but generally we push them down because we have all these outside external forces. So some of us are better at feeling those instincts than others, but we all have them. If it doesn't feel right, it's probably not right. I mean, it's
Well, that's an old saying, Lou, and you know me on these kinds of things. You because of your textbook background and understanding and knowledge and how to break things down and get to the crux of a problem and get someone back on track and how to turn their mind around from negative to positive thoughts and all those kinds of things. I've always worked, you know, for decades now on energy. You know, like people think that I'm crazy, but we're made up of energy. Everything around us is matter and energy, you know. That gut feeling, and I keep telling you, the gut feeling is energy. That's, you know, hang on, whoa, there's something going wrong here. That's that negative energy just literally, you know.
My mom used to do it all the time. When I was young, I remember my mom, she would always say, just the gut feeling. And then there was one time she like actually went to see for herself if her gut feeling was right. And I went with her, and I couldn't believe how spot on right she was about this. And and it wasn't like this was a long time ago. I was young, and there wasn't like Facebook or texting or any of that stuff that she saw something and then it got in her head or whatever. It was 100% just this gut feeling that she had. And I remember just being like amazed, like, how did you know that was going to happen? She's like, just the gut feeling. And I'm just it was just like this mind-blowing moment. I just thought she was the smartest person in the world. I still, you know, I always feel that way about her, but
it's an unbelievable feeling. I remember when I first got onto this, I was doing my apprenticeship, and I used to go down and see one of my older brothers on his property in rural Australia. And I used to go there first. You know, I first started going there on school holidays. I used to go working there on school holidays. We'd be fencing contracting. And during my apprenticeship, I'd go down and see him. He used to have a wow of time down there. But he was way out in the sticks, so to speak. And there's some pretty, wild characters out there who great with the horticulture, shall we say. And I came across, I think her name was Rose, was her name. And when I first met her, real eccentric lady, salt of the earth, lovely, lovely, lovely. But when I met her, she was like, whoa, your energy is unbelievable. And then, like, even after we left, she said to my brother, told him all these things, like basically predicted he's going to do this and this, and he's going to be this, and like literally predicted every one of those things that he told me those, decades ago now have all come true. Yeah. This lady just worked off energy. I don't know how she did it or anything like that.
Some people can. I got to mix a little logic in with how I do it sometimes. But yeah, it is energy. Like, we all have the instincts that we need. It's just I mean, look at, like, I watch, I'm an animal person, so I watch like my dogs a lot, and I'll just see, I have a really oversensitive dog, and she just, if she reacts weird to a situation, I go with it. There was a guy that came to our door once, and she's usually pretty excited to see people. You know how she is. She loves people.
One way of putting it.
But this guy came to our door, and he was trying to hand me something, and she was just not having it, would not let me to the door. She stayed between me and him the whole time. I was able to get the door cracked, and I took it from him, and she was pissed. She didn't want me to open the door. She wouldn't let me open the door. She was showing her teeth. And I remember thinking, like, there's some reason she feels that way. So I'm going to go with it, 'cause she doesn't act like this.
Yeah.
And there was something about the situation she didn't like. And we all have those too. Dogs just haven't learned to not trust their instincts. You can't train that out of a dog. We've been trained out of that to just follow and blindly follow people, and your instincts are just crazy. Or you're, especially like being a female too, you get told a lot, like, oh, like, women are just crazy, or women, you're just overthinking it, or whatever. And I just think women have an intuition that we know to follow, where men will mistrust those feelings because they don't know what they are. Yeah.
And I think a lot of it too gets corrupted in time too. Those kinds of gut feelings, whatever it is, positive energy, negative energy, however you want to describe it for yourself, we get corrupted with it, like
we do.
That
life corrupts us.
Yeah, absolutely. We get bogged down in certain things. And
well, it doesn't have to. I mean, it's all, like, again, it's how you react to situations.
Definitely. Yeah. But we all go through it.
So yeah, that's just what's right for you. You just have to be prepared for the aftermath of it, and have a plan, and have somebody you're going to call. Don't do it alone. I can't, maybe it's your wife, maybe it's your best friend, maybe it's a trusted professional, maybe, you know what I mean? Maybe it's a mixture of all of those things. I have a few people I turn to professionally, and then personally, I have some mentors, you help me so much. And my mom, like, I have like a circle of people I go to. I think everybody should have that.
Also too, because we're talking construction industry, I'll be the one that says it. Your support network is not down at the local pub drinking 20 pints. Okay.
No. You can get your frustration out, like with I don't mean use alcohol to get your frustration out, but it's those, I don't mean that at all. What I mean is those situations where you're out with your buddies is a good time to just let that frustration out. Like, I'm pissed about this. Just, it's a good time to vent. Now, I would prefer you're not doing that over like copious amounts of booze, but because that's not healthy at all. But those buddy circles are good to just vent, just get it out there, whether it's rational, irrational, whatever. But don't just rely on that.
No, but that's, I want to say that because I've got no qualms saying that at all. You're going to have to play this smart. If you have made a big fork in the road, life-changing decision that is going to affect your family, your ability to earn money in the short term and all those kinds of things, don't switch to the bottle. Don't switch going to the job every day to the bottle and all those kinds of things. find your support network where you can talk, literally talk. That might be a phone call, might be a, video call. It could be meeting up in person if you're able to, and the police states haven't locked you down and anything crazy like that. But get your network, because it's one thing making the decision, okay? Then you've right, I've made that decision, right, this is how I'm moving forward. So you've got all your plan. Then you've got to execute on that plan. That's what some people have difficulties with. I know that for
execution's hard.
Yeah. So that's when you really need your support network. That's when you really need to communicate with your family and all those kinds of things as well. So have a really good networking around you. And if you've got someone, like, especially with construction workers, there's going to be one guy in the crowd's like, oh yeah, just brought a 6-pack with us, boys, here we go. You know, bought a box of, what was the thing? A box of ideas. That's what we used to call them.
Yeah, I'm not naive. I know that stuff is going to happen, but you can't rely on that.
No, in these particular situations, you need a good level head. You need to have some knowledge water after you've come up with a plan, when you can relax then. But when you come up with that plan, you need to be clear-headed. You need to be able to, think clearly. And we
all have those vices that we turn to, unfortunately, at time. It's human nature. I know, me and my best friend we have these bitch sessions that are just not accomplishing anything. It just makes us feel better. It makes us feel better in the moment. But, it's always kind of followed up for me anyway. And I know her too. Like, okay, well, how do we fix this? How do we stop feeling this way? Or,
But that's something, you got to, you made the decision, you got to move forward then. You got to move forward with that decision. And then, again, this is what I want to draw on you, Lou. When it gets tough, let's talk about it in a week's time, and, there's some decisions being made. How do people cope with it when it starts getting tough? Making the decision's one thing, okay? Like, let's separate, okay, that's what I'm going to do.
It's when reality sets in.
Yeah, exactly. When reality sets in, what's some coping mechanisms there? What's some things that people can do to cope better, to not fall into that deep, dark place? If they do, how should they try and get out of it? Of course, they can reach out to you, no problems at all. You're there to help. Yeah.
I mean, that would ideally be the first thing you do is reach out to someone. But in the meantime, it's really the little things you can do that make a pretty big difference too. It's not going to fix everything, but if you find yourself out of work, establish a new routine for a little while till you figure it out. Still wake up at certain times. Do something productive in the morning, exercise, whatever you're able to do. Maybe go out to the garage or the shop or whatever and do things. Like, establish your routine to start if you're going to find yourself in a new position. You don't want to just flounder and sleep till noon and then start drinking in the afternoon. Like, those are all really bad things you can do. That's a quick downhill path. So those are things you can do to start out. Also too, like nutrition, like make sure you're giving your body, those things I know it sounds silly, but those things have Valerie is such a good person for people to reach out to too, to get on track. Now I know she does target women with her services, but I know that she has so much to offer men, and her husband's worked in the industry forever, so like she has so much knowledge. So
her husband and I worked together for years. We started. I first met Gerard, the husband, in 1996.
So she's super knowledgeable on the industry. So I mean,
Lou,
she might be a person to
make sure you leave the links for Valerie in the description, and that very, very important.
But it's just stuff like that she is, and like even when I talk to her, I feel better about things afterwards, and she's not. We're just bouncing ideas off each other. She's not even, I'm not a client of hers, but I always feel better after I talk to her too. So just, she can give you so much good stuff, and it's creating a routine and healthy habits, because those are going to be the things that kind of hold you together when it gets hard. I know, like at the beginning of like the COVID stuff, I had nothing to do. And it was tough for me. I like to keep moving. And I just remember setting like a routine for myself. I'd get up and come to the desk. I spent a lot of time at that point just doing a lot of research and coming up with the Oryx Care stuff, really. That's kind of where that came from. So, and I'd work out, and my mom and I would eat dinner together every night. Like, we just established, her and I both, because she was out of work too. We just established this routine, and that helped immensely. So those are the things you can do on your own without help at all. But I would personally reach out for help first. And get something.
I suppose
something going
with your support network as well. You know, yes, you've got friends, but then you've got work colleagues, you know, and they're not always the same type of people. You don't always ask for the same advice off either as well. So with the choose your network wisely, I suppose. You know, it's very,
and you might have to filter through some of that stuff to begin with. I know when I started out with all this stuff or whatever, or when all the COVID stuff happened, and I was like, on a professional level, I've had to weed through a lot to get to, and I had to get better about reaching out to my personal support network too, because I'm personally not that good at that. It's something I've had to work on. So you do have to weed through some of that, and people you think are going to be good support for you end up not being. So don't be surprised by that when that happens, because it will happen. And then just finding those people and keeping them close, you know, it might not be every day, but I mean, like right now, I talk to you every day, and I talk to Barb every day, pretty much every day. Cause it's, you know, it's been challenging for her and I both for different reasons, but just with the craziness of the world. So yeah, like keep in touch often with that support network you do create. And
I think too, if you are someone that is strong, like my personality, I've got a strong personality. I've got, you know, as you say, there's black and white, there's no gray areas or anything like that. But I'm strong in when it's terrible situations. So I reached out to that buddy of mine that I haven't spoke to in years and years and years and years, because I saw he was quite active on LinkedIn. And I thought, wonder how he's doing, you know? So
I saw him and I didn't even realize it was a friend of yours.
And I'm glad that I did, because he was, you know, like he was really questioning, like, wow, you know, like, what's going on? And just really, you could tell that he had a world of his whole family on his shoulders, you know? And if you are a strong person, reach out to your buddies, you know? Be that strong
even if
person,
you feel, even if you feel like you're not in a position, like say you're not feeling that strong or whatever, we all have strength.
Exactly. We're all good at something.
We all have strength. Well, and we all have inner strengths, not just our strengths. We all have inner strength that you don't even know is there. I think a lot of people aren't really put in positions often where they have to find that inner strength, because, you know, life just kind of ticks along for them and they're on cruise control. But we all have inner strength. So don't underestimate that about yourself. If you think you can't get through it, you can. And you never know, like by helping people, it does make you feel good too.
100%.
So if you're feeling like maybe you should reach out to a person, just go with that and do it. And you never know how much of that's going to help you too.
And as this, again, I'll say it because no one else is going to say it, as men in the construction industry, okay, and I'm just talking, like, I'm not being, you know, I'm not saying not women, I'm just saying as men in the construction industry, I know there's plenty of women there, but men have such a hard time opening up and talking about things. Like, it's just, so, and I'll say it even more, Australian men are even worse at it than most of the other men that I've seen anywhere in the world. Because they want to be this big, tough guy. You guys are going to be pushed, twist, bent, stretched right now. Don't try and do it alone. You know, we don't want it. Lou and I, that's why we do these videos. You know, we could be doing a million other things, but we do them to pass knowledge on and the hope.
What do I tell you about videos all the time?
I know you hate them.
Yeah, I do. I hate being on camera, but if I feel like it's going to help, I'm glad. Like,
if it saves one life,
yeah,
it's been worth it. I don't care
yeah.
if we're doing this for 10 years and it saves one life.
Yeah.
It's worth it, you know?
Yeah. I wasn't
And
planning on doing this video today, so you guilted me into it.
Well, I'm not often in
I'm
the
just kidding.
office,
I'm
so
just
we
kidding.
got to.
Yeah.
But it's really important that you don't suffer in silence, okay?
Yeah.
You know, it's all good and well to have these, you know, World Suicide Prevention Day and the Are You Okay Day and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Now is when you need to be asking people, are you okay? Tomorrow is when you need to be asking people, are they okay? Next week, next month, that's when you need to be.
You know what I've seen since all those days a couple weeks ago?
Center of a donut.
Yeah, silence. The same people stay doing it, you know, like Rob. Like Rob's really great about staying consistent with his messaging, and I know like his circle of friends that are doing it are good, but that's it. I mean, I see nothing on. I see nothing anywhere other than those guys. So which I love their work. So
yeah. I think the other thing too, Lou, that I wanted to touch on with that briefly, I know we've rattled on for a bit now, but change. Mm-hmm. Change is, you know, I don't need to tell you about that. Like, you're one of the people that hated change, you know. Like
I still hate change. I just, it's makes me super uncomfortable to this day, but I push myself through it because every time I've done it, it's been awesome. You know, every time I go back there, I get in my head like, oh, I just want to be home. I just, you know, it's easier to be home. It's whatever. And then I get there and I'm just happy and calm and you know, I love it there. So, and then coming back home, I'm like, I don't really want to go home.
And then you come home and you see family and all of that.
And I'm happy again. Like, it's just,
I'm going to say it because it's really hard for people. Like, I'll think about some of these construction workers that have probably been doing it for 20, 30 years. And now they're like, you know, especially men, I don't feel like I'm providing for my family now. I don't feel as strong as what I should be. And I'm not a man anymore and all of that. Get that noise out of your head. If you're getting that noise in your head, get in touch with Lindsay straight away. 100% get in touch with Lindsay.
Yeah, don't let that stuff take over you. Don't let it consume you, because it's way harder to come back when it's consumed you. I mean, I've been there personally. It's if you can stay ahead of that, it's way, way easier. You'd be surprised just the little steps you can take that make a huge difference when it hasn't consumed you. Yeah.
If it is, what's some good tips, Lou? What's some really quick,
if it's consuming you?
Yeah.
At that point, it's pretty imperative you reach out for help. Obviously the things I said earlier, but the first thing I would be doing is picking up the phone, sending an email, send me a message, do whatever. It doesn't even have to be me. If you feel like you're that consumed by it, that's where those hotlines are great too. Give one of those hotlines a call just to kind of get you through until, you know, whatever. I feel like I'm pretty quick about getting back to people. I have my email on my phone. I check social media often. So I'm super easy to get a hold of. I'll answer my phone at 3 a.m. if I hear it. So,
okay. But what if they're just, the thoughts are creeping in?
That's
waking up. They're out of work now. Like, shit, you know, what do they replace that with? What do they replace those thoughts with? Okay, guys, if you've come this far with us on this journey, on this discussion that Lou and I are having, we just had a technical difficulty there. Lou dropped out all the Wi-Fi at her place, so we luckily recovered all of the video footage and everything like that. So it got a bit scary there for a moment. So, look, we got right up to a really good discussion point, and that was, okay, we spoke about like if it's consuming you, all of these negative thoughts, and you're not so much of a man, and all these kinds of things which a lot of us can do and can feel that way. What advice do you give to the people where it's just starting to creep in? What are they going to do to replace those negative thoughts? What can they do? What's some tips on that?
Yeah. So I think I started saying about one of my favorite techniques to use and to tell people about. It seems kind of simple, but it makes a big difference. It's called thought stopping. So when you start having those negative thoughts when they're creeping up on you, you're actually in a pretty good position where you can almost just retrain your brain from the start. So what happens is when you let those negative thoughts ruminate, it becomes automatic. Like it just
Right.
in your mind just automatically starts repeating that over and over again, and then it becomes even bigger, and then it's like you call it catastrophizing. It goes from something that is kind of small to this huge problem and the world's ending and you're never going to recover from it. So if you use the thought stopping technique, you can basically retrain your mind from the start. So as soon as you start having one of those negative thoughts, you basically just distract yourself. So you can even say in your mind, like, stop, just don't. I know that sounds really, really simple and like it's almost too easy. But if you can do that, if you can say, you know what, I'm not going to think about this, I'm going to go do something else. I'm going to go, I don't know, go for a walk or go do whatever. And
garden, work on the car.
whatever your preference is. So it stops those thoughts in their tracks, so they can't grow and they can't ruminate. So then it becomes like second nature to you when it starts to happen to just
Right.
some people will even say like stop out loud. Like they'll you know, just that it's really just tricks you play on your own mind, because we ruminate, you know, and then they grow.
Okay. But I think too, like it's quite a unique opportunity right now as well, because it's going to be, I was working last week and I'm not working this week.
Yeah.
So you have a wonderful opportunity to stay focused on your thoughts. Okay.
Yeah.
Understand that, okay, I'm going through a change here. I'm going to be okay on the other side of it. I know I've just got to keep my health. I've got to keep healthy thoughts. I've got to look after my family. But whatever happens, I'm going to be okay on the other side.
Yeah. Keep telling yourself that.
Yes.
Just over and over and over again.
And because you are now right in that fork in the road, or you may have been there just recently, or you're about to, whatever the case may be, what's your thoughts? The perfect opportunity to understand how your brain works and what happens out of that.
Yeah. And a good way to track it is journaling. Writing those thoughts down. So when you have them, write them down, and you can even write like underneath of it or beside it an alternative thought to that contradicts it. So whatever. I mean, give me an example of a negative thought that somebody might.
A negative thought would be like, I'm not a man. I'm not providing for my family.
Yeah. So you write that down. You write that down, and you could say all the ways that you do provide for your family and you have provided for your family. Just something that contradicts those thoughts, because they're usually just irrational. So it's thoughts that are coming from a place of fear and anxiety and all of those things. So journaling is good because it gets it out, but you can go back and read them and you can see the trends. Maybe it's happening at a certain time of the day, or after drinking, or after you haven't been sleeping. Like I know personally, if I wake up in the middle of the night is when I have to use this technique. For some reason, the middle of the night is when negative thoughts get to me. So so I mean, if that's the case, if that's like you, if it's keeping you up, just get up, go write some stuff down or whatever, just get it out. And then so it allows you to like see the trends when it's happening, what was going on in your life. Maybe you had an argument with a spouse or a friend, or maybe you had a look at your bank account or something, you know, because there's usually there's something that stemmed from, and then it's easier to identify that and change.
See, a lot of this change right now and a lot of the anxiety will all come from monetary problems. Okay.
Yeah.
But again, systematically break them down. Break down, okay, what do I need? I've got to change myself. One of the things that I always do when I feel that I'm in a position where the sky's coming in on me and all of those kinds of things, you know, like when I was selling up all the equipment in my business in Australia, when, you know, the pipeline industry and the mining industry tanked at the same time, like unprecedented. And I was in a world of pain. I was in a lot of pain in those days. And like, even me looking back at it now, I say to myself, how did I get through that? How was I able to get through that? There was all the people that were friends, you know, no one came to help. No one, absolutely zero came to help, you know.
And I think people will find that is going to happen.
It is
too, so
and it's going to
prepare
happen
yourself
now.
For that.
But one of the things that I did myself, and I just kept saying to myself, I'm not the first person in this position. It's going to be hard. I've got the brain power. I know that I've got the smarts to get through this. I know that I can get through to the other side, which I did do. And I got through to the other side, and it was great. And then it was like this world of, you know, I went through some terrible, terrible pain there for a while, but on the other side was more beautiful than what I could have imagined. So, and then the other thing that I always do, and I say to myself, okay, sometimes I say, so what? So what? Okay. So that, say the bank comes and takes something from me. You know, now I've put myself in a position because I hated being in that position. Now I don't owe anyone any money now. And that's the way that I live my life now. Like it's been a thing. But in those days, I'm like, so what? They come and take it. If I was a teenager in 1930s, I'd be shipped off to war with a strong possibility that I wasn't coming back before I'd even been able to legally allowed to drink and all these kinds of things, you know, like, we think that we are being just swamped, absolutely swamped at times. And it is, it's a huge feeling, you know, like for me, that was owing millions of dollars. And I swum around and I did whatever I could by hook or by crook. I got to the other side in a better position than what I thought I was going to be in, which was great. But I got there and I had to, you know, there was 3 days without sleep and doing things that, you know, unbelievable things that you just think your body can't do. But always I was thinking, imagine if I was in war. Imagine if I had to.
That's a tricky one though, because you don't want to diminish those feelings either. You're feeling that way for a reason. So you don't want to make those feelings, because that's a slippery slope to go down, because then it can go from, well, there's people who have it worse for me. And then you start feeling kind of like an asshole yourself for feeling the way you do, but you can't help it that you feel that way. So like, it's good to have that perspective for sure. And I appreciate where you're coming from, but it's, you don't want to diminish, you don't want to diminish the feelings you have, and you want to deal with them head on instead of, you know.
But I used it as inspiration. That's what
if you can do that, but you know, it depends where the person's at mentally, and like that's a great technique to use, you know, like everybody needs perspective from time to time, but don't make your feelings or fears or anxieties less important, because in the moment they are important. So
no, but I had to deal with it. Like if I had to get on the other side of it,
I get what you're saying. I get
like
what you're saying,
I wasn't going to sit there, and I wasn't going to cower, and I wasn't going to give up. Like I needed to reach for anything that could give me some kind of inspiration to go, you know what? Yeah, it's a tough, shitty situation that you're in, but there's been millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions that have been in the shoes that you're in right now. Some in bigger situations and some in smaller situations. But at the end of the day, it's things. It's things. It's my health. It's being able to, you know, move forward, get past it. That's the stuff that really matters at the end of the day. So
it does.
That's what that, and again, you're right. That's what worked for me. I can only give you my experiences, but that's what I had to do to
just because that thought process sometimes leads people to not deal with what they're feeling too. That's the only thing. Why I agree with you, and I do that too sometimes. Like, don't you know, this may seem hard, it could be worse, you know. Like even on my worst days, they're still way better than a lot of people's days, even my bad days. So like that does help, but you also don't want to just do that, you know what I mean? You also want to deal with that anxiety and face that stuff.
The situation that I was in, I couldn't think about emotions or anything like that. I just couldn't
Yeah.
because I wasn't swimming. Like I had truckloads of concrete on top of me. I wasn't just treading water. I had truckloads of concrete on top of me. So the feelings and all of that were not, then they weren't even in my mind. I'm sure they were there subconsciously, but it was physically, I had to do the work of a team of people.
But eventually you did have to confront those feelings.
Afterwards, yeah.
So
100% after that. And I had a lot of resentment with that too, because the people that I thought would have been there, and look, including some of my family, crickets, absolute crickets, you know. And but then when you move past that, as you do, and then you learn, and life teaches you all these lessons. It taught me, it gave me one of the greatest lessons of my life, all of that, you know, so as it does, as those, it makes
my goal here is to always provide some perspective and some solutions to people. So maybe the road isn't so long for them. The hard road isn't so long where, you know, at the time for you, I know enough about your past, you had some pretty unhealthy coping skills also. So maybe all I'm trying to do here is shine light on your situation.
Well,
so that road might not be so long for someone else. I'm not saying how you handled it was wrong, but maybe we can save somebody from, you know.
Well, and my, you know, people used to say all the time, a lesser man wouldn't have handled it. And that's 100% true. A lesser person would not have handled that, you know. So how do we make sure that the lesser people get through those sorts of situations? How do we, even as friends, when someone's in a world of pain, how do we reach out for help? How do we offer help for someone that's in pain? You know what I mean? Like, they're the sorts of things that...
and maybe not lesser, but maybe not like as mentally equipped to handle it, you know.
Stubborn.
Whatever you want to call it, but not as equipped for it. You know, you had kind of been out on your own handling problems by yourself for a long time. Not everybody's in that situation, but like I said earlier, everybody has that inner strength if they look for it. Definitely.
And always remember that you will get out the other side. Okay. Like, don't let things consume you. Don't let things overtake you. If you're willing to put your hand up, if you're willing to reach out for help, it will get better. So use your time wisely as well. You know, like
you're in the best period in time right now to deal with hard times. I think that's important. The chaoticness of the world and all that stuff sucks, but we're in a really good position where there's way more help out there. You can reach people a lot easier.
And there's opportunity.
I mean, there's just endless information if you know where to look. So use that to your advantage.
Write a list of all the things that you love doing. Write a list of the things that make you happy. Use the time wisely to put a list of things together that you say, you know, I might have been doing that for all those years, but did I really enjoy myself? You know?
It might be, might open some new doors that you didn't even know were there.
It will open some new doors, you know, if you're willing to give it a go, if you're willing to you know, just try different things and be proactive about it, you know. Be that person, be that good friend.
At the end of the day, the whole moral of the story is to ask for help if you're feeling like it's too much. So that's really the message I want to get across. And the examples I've given here are just a couple examples of things that we can work on, tricks I can tell you about and things like that, you know. So never hesitate to reach out.
No, and it's like Lindsay says all the time, it's that initial impact.
That's the hardest part.
That's the hardest part. Once you're on a video conference with Lou, I can tell you what, you will thank your lucky stars that you are. Guaranteed 100%. You know, Lou has a wealth of knowledge with that, and her passion is just helping people get out of bad times. But I think that's a really good segue to wrap it up here, Lou. I think there's some wonderful information in there. Don't battle it alone, guys. It's going to get rough, no doubt about it. You know, if it's not rough already, it's going to be rough. But get a good network together. Don't dwell on negative thoughts, replace them.
Yeah.
If you are struggling, reach out for help straight away.
Yeah.
The sooner that you reach out for help, the sooner you can turn your negative thoughts around. It's as simple as that. It really is that simple. And it doesn't have to be. I know Lou's got some amazing offers right now for people. You know, she just wants to help people. So you know, do what you can.
Reach out and we'll work. I'll never turn somebody away. So
no, reach out. If you're in need for help, you know, Lou will look after you. I know. I know that.
Yeah, I love it.
All right, Lou. Look, thanks very much for your wonderful knowledge, insight. Yeah, it's been.
Thanks for the questions.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Sorry for the technical difficulties and the
Houston
moment of panic there.
All sorted now.
Fun. Yeah, all good.
All right. Thanks very much, Lou.
Okay.
And to the construction work out there, look, guys, be well, be safe, be happy. Don't suffer in silence. Reach out, talk, discuss. That's all we can do. Much love to everyone. Ciao.
If you like this video, don't forget to hit the like button and share it with your friends. Also, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss any of our new episodes. We always love hearing from you guys, so if you have any topics you'd like us to discuss or just anything you'd like to add, leave a comment and we'll be happy to share our thoughts. Once again, thank you for watching, and I truly hope this added some value to your construction world.